Jim, good morning, my friend, with Brogan Financial. How are you?
Good morning, Bob. I'm doing just great.
Okay.
Just trying to track everything that's going on.
Well, you need to check every few minutes, it seems like. I mean,
know.
When I came on the air, the Dow Jones was down about 1,400 points, and then like a few minutes later, it was up 400 points, and then it was back down 300 points at last check. And let me just pull it up just so I can. It's down right at 50 points. I mean, is this just the way it is in the recent regarding the recent announcement of tariffs, or did you expect these big swings like this?
Well, I mean, nobody forecast that the announced tariffs would go as far as they did. And so markets do not like uncertainty, and there's just a tremendous amount of uncertainty right now. This is pretty dang choppy. I mean, it's the fourth choppiest 2-day period. Thursday and Friday was the fourth biggest downturn in 2 days since World War II. But there have been a lot of times the market has been pretty dang choppy over a 2 or 3 day period. So, and it's because, again, and if I go back and look at the other ones that were worse in 2 days, it was things like the financial crisis and the Great Recession in fall of 2008. It was the pandemic in 2020. It was the market crash in 1987. We look at those types of events. What do? They create tremendous uncertainty in the markets, and the markets don't know how to price things. And so you get these wild swings.
So with that context on this, how surprising is what you've seen today in these past few days regarding stocks?
I'm a little surprised it's as choppy as it is. I've been trying to digest as much news coverage, data type of news, not editorial comment, but true news, as I possibly can. And I think, does anybody think the tariffs that were announced Wednesday of last week, does anybody think that is what's going to be in place a month from now? Is that a worst case scenario and it's going to readjust? Or, there's just so much unknown. So I'm a little surprised the market has reacted as strongly as it has. Then again, some economists are surprised it hasn't reacted even more strongly than it has. So, but the biggest thing is it's creating a lot of uncertainty. We haven't seen this type of potential disruption in trade ever. And so we just don't know how that's going to play out.
Overall, what has your attention with the tariffs?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again, Bob?
Overall, what has your attention when it comes to the tariffs that were announced by President Trump? What are you focused on to see how this might all play out down the road?
So a couple of things. One is, I'm the single biggest economic thing that I'm a little bit concerned about right now is stagflation, which of course would be no economic growth paired with inflation. That would not be good for the U.S. economy. That's kind of I don't want to say the worst case scenario. Depression would be worse, of course, but stagflation would be my biggest concern with raising prices and with economic slowdown of tariffs. So on the one hand, that's my biggest concern. On the other hand, the U.S. market and U.S. companies over time have always been extremely resilient. And I think it's very, very important. When we look at history, Bob, some of our greatest one-day gains in the stock market have immediately followed our worst one-time losses. And I just want to stress that, we shouldn't ever be surprised when markets are volatile. We're surprised about what causes that volatility because we don't know ahead of time because something happens and creates uncertainty. But the bottom line is their markets always in the short term are volatile. So, the question I would ask the listeners is, are the tariffs considered a worst case starting point? And then, we've already got other countries coming to the table. And do we really think tariffs would cause permanent impairment on U.S. growth and GDP? I don't think I'm overly optimistic in saying I don't think it would cause permanent impairment. No question it'll create some short-term instability, may cause some slowdown. We may see a recession. I don't know. But markets in the short term are unpredictable. I would never want to bet against the U.S. market long term.
I've seen a lot of folks making the comment that it's not, regarding the stock market at least, it's not a loss if you don't sell. Is that a fair statement?
Yes and no. I, on the one hand, like, I hate it when commentators say 30 trillion of wealth, or whatever the number's been, I don't remember, however many trillions of wealth have been lost. Well, I mean, and they talk about how much money, an Elon Musk has lost. Well, I mean, he's not cashing in his stock, right? So in a sense, that is true. In a sense, though, we do have to remember that when we get older in life and we're closer to needing to draw income from our life savings, the big losses, there's cruel math in losses. When you lose 35 or 40%, you have to make 65, 70% just to get back to break even. It's very cruel math. And so when you get those big losses, if you don't have a good bit of time to recover, if you're in your 30s and your 401k, you really shouldn't be sweating it. You should be thinking, how can I invest more money? As you get closer to needing income or needing to access investments, that's where a big loss is probably more than just on paper, because when are you going to need that money? Do you have enough time to wait it out? If you truly do have time, then it is on paper.
So this could be an opportunity for a certain group of folks.
Absolutely could be an opportunity. I think, again, I'm not about short-term speculation, Bob. But typically when we see things like this happen, there are opportunities that present themselves. But again, that's with a long-term view, 5, 6, 7 years, maybe even just 3 or 4 years. That's not looking at it as where am I going to be 30 days from now or a year from now, because that's all a crapshoot. If I'm looking through it with a 5 to 7 year type view, then there are buying opportunities inevitably that are created out of this.
Well, I think that's a great reminder, great piece of advice, because in this world where we just want everything right there in front of us at that moment within a day or two, we kind of lose sight of down the road. And since you and I've been talking here, the market's gone from being down 50 to being down right at 400. So it looks like this roller coaster ride is going to just keep on, certainly through maybe today and probably for the next several days, it would appear.
I would think probably the next several days. So Jim, I think we need a cooler head to prevail.
Jim, thank you for taking time, spend a few minutes with us to give us your perspective on what's going on with the tariffs and the stock market. And as always, look forward to your show on the weekend here, 9 till 10, then again from 3 until 4, more Living with Jim Brogan. And we'll be listening for it again this weekend.
Thank you, Bob. And, we'll be diving into all of this stuff Saturday. But it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Have a great day.